One and recording. Hello, everyone. Hi. My name is Nick. Welcome to our little video podcasty thing for
Wow.
YouTube. Yes, name is still pending. In any event, hi. My name is Nick. I'm the director of operations for the Digital Arts Experience. I am joined by my co-host. Co-host. I would say.
Evan,
Yes.
I am a somebody who also works at Digital Arts Experience. I am the YouTube club coordinator and a teacher as well.
Excellent. And today we are shooting a little podcast sort of thing. I know podcasts are usually for audio, but we've got a little bit of video for this. And basically, we are, as you may or may not have heard, we are in the midst of putting together a YouTube club, specifically for people who are interested in just hanging out with other people who really enjoy YouTube, seeing like how we can like make the most of the medium and do some really cool stuff. So me and Evan, or Evan and myself, English is important.
Mhm.
Evan and myself are currently going through and trying out different formats. This is one of them. Previously, we did a game and play video, which you should definitely go check out. And this is one of our newer ones. So we will probably be making more videos as time goes on. So definitely
Oh yeah.
come back to check that out. What was that, Evan?
Oh, I just said oh yeah.
Gotcha. I also encourage you to check out our club website, which we'll get back to that in a little bit. So, Evan, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about all kinds of fiction that we've either read or what's the word? Engaged in, have watched, have experienced.
Immersed ourselves in, perhaps?
Yes, exactly. Of any, I was thinking of any sort that we would like.
Okay, cool.
Originally, I had thought books only, but I couldn't think of only books, so I included some of others as well.
Okay, interesting. So, are we talking more about like fictional worlds then? Is that on the table?
I think that would be nice. I have a focus on books. It's just that I
Okay.
decided to expand it a little because I didn't feel like I had enough just in the realm of books.
Okay, I gotcha. So in that case, since you have an idea of like what the overall scale of this is going to be, do you want to kick us off and ask me the first question?
Well, sure. Before I do that, I'd like to
Sure.
mention that uh, this can be about either the story themselves that that is told, or about the world. So don't feel like it has to be exclusively one or the other
Okay.
for my questions.
All right.
Um,
Why don't you kick us off?
so my first question is one that's asked quite a lot, but I love to hear the answer, which is, of all the fictional worlds you have consumed in different media, is the one you would want to live in?
Ooh, that's a good one. Uh, hmm. So there is a world or a universe that I really enjoy, which is the Harry Dresden universe. I don't know if I'd want to live there, however, because basically the best way I can describe Harry Dresden, it's like if it's like gritty detective who lives in Chicago meets magic kind of scenario. So there's like
Okay.
a bunch of like crazy creatures and like there's stuff that goes bump in the night. I would probably get eaten very quickly.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I necessarily want to live in that particular one. But I would.
It's always tough because there's almost always conflict in the stories
Yes,
we're reading
exactly.
them.
Um, just on a whim, I would say maybe the Stardust universe is pretty interesting. Do you know the movie Stardust, Evan?
I don't actually.
I believe it's called Stardust, but basically it's like a mixture of like magic and fantasy, and there's like some really cool gadgets and stuff. It's a very good home movie. I definitely recommend it. Um,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll write that down.
it's basically like this fallen star comes down to Earth, and like it turns out that she's actually a person, and there's like the whole story revolving around that. It's very interesting.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. Let me switch the question back over to you. What universe would you want to live in, Evan? And then I have a follow up question.
Okay, I've actually thought about this for quite a while because it's always a question asked. But the thing is, like I said, all of these usually have some terrible conflict
Yes.
that either make it horrible to live in or horrible to live in a specific time period.
Agreed.
So after much thinking, I actually have chosen the world of Splatoon as in the Nintendo video game,
Huh.
because it takes place years after humans have been extinct, where sea creatures have evolved to go onto land, kind of like a new sort of human, but they're now more like squids and other fish-like creatures. And even though there's conflict in the backgrounds, honestly, just the world is so pleasant and colorful and well designed. I'd love to just live in like their version of Manhattan, which is called Inkopolis, and just like
Oh, very
chill.
nice.
It's that it just is a very pleasant place, has good music.
Yeah,
That's definitely mine, no question.
yeah. It definitely sounds like you get to just like throw some like do some ink drawings and then just chill for the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like a rebel punk kind of vibe, but in a very playful sense. It's very
I
good.
gotcha. That's pretty cool. Let me switch it around for you. Um, if you could, so we were talking about like fictional worlds, right? If you were to design a fictional world of your own, what kind of style or themes would you go for?
Honestly, I would go for something a little modern,
Okay.
because I actually adore both fantasy and space in their own ways if they're done right. But I feel
Mm,
like my favorite fiction is when they make weird, slightly off versions of modern, like just everyday stuff. Like
okay.
one random example would be like the game Earthbound. It's technically a modern setting in like the 1980s or 90s, but it's got weird psychic powers and creatures that lurk in the forest.
Oh, I gotcha.
Love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of.
I really enjoy like I kind of the same vibe as you actually. Like have you seen Thor Ragnarok?
I admit I have not, but I know a bit about it.
Okay, that's cool. So like one of the cool things about like the Thor universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that like you've got Thor and all the various gods and whatnot, and they have access to magic, but it's just really complicated technology. It's not really magic. We just don't really understand that. I really like that particular uh, viewpoint of that. So
I do like
I
that,
might do
yeah.
something similar where like we've got like some spaceships, we've got some laser blasters, but then we have a shaman over in the corner. I guess I'm kind of going down a Shadowrun sort of scenario. I really enjoy that kind of
Oh,
mixture.
okay. I know Shadowrun.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely interesting. I love that the when those two things kind of come together. It's very cool mix.
Yeah, awesome.
Do you have a question
All
for
right.
me, sir?
Okay, I got some more for you. So
Hit
this
me.
one's more story oriented.
Okay.
But do you have a favorite character from fiction? I know it's a really hard one. It can be from any fiction, because I know that's a very open question. It could just
Okay.
be one of your favorites, though.
So if I had to pick a favorite, basically,
Yeah, like it doesn't need to be your absolute, but one of your favorite characters from any fictional stories you've read.
fictional stories I've read. Um, so this is actually going to go back in time a little bit. There was a book or a series of books I read. Are you familiar with the Dragonlance series?
Admittedly, no.
That's fine. For those of you who play D&D or any fantasy settings, I actually don't remember the name of the world. It's been so long since I dived into it. But there was a book I found at Barnes and Noble, and this kind of started me on the whole like reading fantasy novels sort of thing. I believe it was called The Soul Forge.
Hmm.
And in it, it basically told the story of a young man named, and I'm probably gonna mess it up, so don't kill me in the comments, please. Raceland or Raslin Majir, or he basically was a very sickly young man, but he had like tremendous magical potential. But the reason that I really enjoy his character is that he had a very cynical sort of outlook, in a very like poor like hand in life, and it made him a very he wasn't like the nicest character by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he was probably like one of the few characters you would probably not enjoy hanging out with because he was very cynical, very cold. But it was like his backstory, so you kind of got a little bit of like understanding like where he's coming from and what he had to deal with. Um,
See.
and I was also at that age where I was like, yeah, this guy's moody and edgy. I understand. So I really latched onto that when I was younger. And there were like a lot of things that I like in broader context. I'm like, wow, this guy is not so cool. But that's sort of like the character that I really appreciated when I was younger.
I got you.
Yeah. How about you?
So, I think since you brought it back a bit, I think I will as well.
Oh, snap.
And I must admit, I don't remember everything about this series because I was quite young when I read it, but I know for a fact that it's still beloved by quite a few people, and that is the Artemis Fowl series.
Ah, interesting.
Um,
I think I've
and
read
I
like
always
first
thought,
two books.
yeah, I always thought that Artemis Fowl was a very interesting character because he's not really a good guy, but
No.
he's the protagonist of a kids series, like at least a kid-oriented series. I haven't seen the movie. I've heard that it messes with the character plot a little bit, so I might just read the books and avoid the movie. But I would like to reread it because I remember thinking he was very cool and liking the side characters as well.
I got you. Yeah, I think my favorite character in that series was his butler.
Yes, he's awesome.
Yeah, was his name just Butler?
I can't remember.
I want to say it was
I
just like.
remember he was like this very stone cold but caring
Wait,
person.
did he have red hair? Was his name Red? I don't know. I feel like I'm
I
pulling.
believe
I don't know.
he had blonde hair.
Hmm.
I believe he was black with blonde hair, if I remember correctly, or gray hair. It was one of
Huh.
those.
I don't remember. It's been a long time, but it's another good pick.
I just looked it up. His name was Domovoy, and his last name was Butler.
Dumavoid Butler?
Something like that. I might be
Huh.
saying the name wrong, but it looks like Domovoy Butler.
Go figure. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here.
Mhm.
So we're talking about fictional places. Apologies, I think someone is yelling outside my window right now. So
That's totally fine. My cat will probably bother me at some point while we're doing this.
this is the problem when you live in a major city and you're on the first floor. Apologies if you can hear that, but we're gonna power through. So let me switch gears on you a little bit, and let's talk about comics.
Okay.
Because again, fictional universe and whatnot. When did you get into comics, and like, what was your favorite comic book series if you had one? Or
Well,
did
this
you
is
get into
easy
comics?
because I only ever read one comic book series.
Oh,
Actually.
really?
Yes, which is the Archie Sonic comics.
No, really?
Yes, and
Interesting.
they were a good mix of bad and good at the beginning, and then they just became really good afterwards. Uh,
Okay.
they were very messy at first and very like there was a lot of varying of quality. Sometimes they felt like they were throwaway jokes, sometimes they felt like they were trying to be serious but failing at it, but they had a lot of good story arcs as well that were fun. And as they went on, they actually made it a lot more serious, and kind of it came to the level of like superhero comic books where they actually had really interesting arcs with interesting character developments. And more recently, actually, IDW is doing the Sonic comics now, and they're
Huh.
amazing.
Oh,
They're
really?
like good level of fun. They got cool. They got cool stuff with the characters we know and love, and some new characters that fit in well. And of what I've read, it's getting quite dark, but
Really?
not just needlessly. But yeah, I actually do recommend the IDW Sonic comics right now. They're quite good. But I think you might know more about comics than I would because that's the only one I ever consumed.
Probably not too much more. I thought you had more comic experience than just the Archie series, but kind of along a similar vein. I didn't really get into comics until later. Because one of the problems I have was just the availability of comics. Like there wasn't really a comic shop nearby where I was growing up. So what I ended up doing is that like I would go to Barnes and Noble and I would get like after like the comic series are published, they usually put them into like book volumes. So that way you're
Yep.
basically like
That's how
purchasing.
I first got the Sonic ones, actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
volumes.
So that way you don't have to buy individual issues. You just buy out like volumes. And the one
Hmm.
that I really latched onto, it was in the Star Wars universe. And it told the story of an apprentice who was framed for murder. Um, a Jedi apprentice, I should say. And it tells this really interesting story about a character who is like he has force powers, but his like whole ability is like he just messes things up. He's
Oh
he's
no.
he's not a fantastic fighter. He's not a fantastic Jedi X, Y, and Z. So it's a very interesting story, and I really liked it because they did a really good job of integrating it into the actual lore. And
Mhm.
there's like if you've like played any of like the Star Wars RPGs or anything, like there's a lot of cool references in there. Ties into like some of the movie lore and whatnot. Very good set of series. I highly recommend it. I believe I actually have it over here. What is it called? I'm looking for it right now. Hold on.
Okay.
Uh, Star Wars Knights of the it's just the Knights of the Old Republic
Oh,
series.
gotcha. Cool. I'll also say real quick, this is more of a graphic novel, but I'll still count it because
Sure.
I think it's close enough to a comic book. But I also have always been fond of the Scott Pilgrim books.
Oh,
They're
those are
they're
books?
What's that?
I didn't know those were books.
Yes. It started as a graphic novel of 6 books, and then it was turned into a movie.
Okay, cool.
I very much recommend it. I love the movie, but I do think I like the books a little bit more.
Okay, I gotcha.
There's a lot of cool stuff that they either had to change or get rid of in the movie. That doesn't ruin it. It's just like I think the books are a little better.
Gotcha.
Little,
Can I actually ask you a question about Sonic really quickly?
yeah, sure.
So like,
I know way too much Sonic lore because of those books.
well, I kind of just wanted to ask you like, because for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Sonic series.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, like I just can't seem to get into it. Like, what do you think like makes it work for like some people? Like, what do you think is like makes it popular for some and not so much for others? Because like from what I've seen, either people like Sonic or they don't. There isn't like a lot of middle ground on that.
That's correct. I think the main reason that there's so much indecisiveness with the like and everything, and there's no like middle ground, is because of the bad track record of what the games are.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I feel like just in where I look at it, I feel like a lot of people can't get into Sonic because when they think about Sonic, they think about bad games.
Hmm.
Um, I think that the stories can be very engaging, but it's definitely not something easy to get into.
Okay.
That's what I'd say would be my answer. I think the reason why some people get into it is because they stuck through even some of the comics that didn't feel as good and just kept reading them, and they're very enjoyable. And some just have other stuff they already are attached to, and they don't want to spend a lot of time reading it. I
I
definitely say
gotcha.
the comics are the strongest part of Sonic, and the music as well. The
Oh, the music
games are,
is usually good. I will say that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I was just kind of curious about that because I don't know. Like every time I've looked at Sonic, I just like I'm not drawn to it for whatever reason.
That's totally fine. It's not for everybody. I always found myself very attached to the character designs. Like
Okay.
whether people like or dislike Sonic, I think Sonic is arguably one of the coolest like character designs. He's got a very like good mix of
Hmm.
Japanese mascot, but then like attitude on top of it,
I,
and I
I
think that works really well.
I do say I like the original Sonic design compared to the new ones when he was a little bit shorter.
Hmm.
I don't know why. Like I seem to like that one a little bit better. Maybe that's like another like conversation we can have about like character design at some point because
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like that's definitely part of the appeal. Um,
Yeah, let me write it
uh,
down real quick.
yeah, so we'll bring that up at another point. But we've already gone on for about 18 minutes or so. So let's bring it in for final questions, and then we'll wrap up.
I have one last question for you. This
Shoot.
one might take a second to think about, and if it does, that's totally fine. But is there anything you can think of off the top of your head from any fictional things or stories that have inspired you? This could be from the world or the
Mm,
story.
I would say, um, I mean, 100%. I would say. I think I've talked about this with you before, but are you familiar with the Baldur's Gate series?
Yes, I am more recently now.
So I played a game called Baldur's Gate 2 before the original. This is back in the day when you could buy computer games at Staples. If you
Oh, boy.
remember
Oh
these
yeah,
days.
yeah. I worked at Stables for a bit, and they still have them in the back, actually.
Oh, really? Okay,
The
cool.
clearance.
Me and my dad had played like some fantasy games before, and we had gone to Staples for some stupid thing. Like either we needed a printer fixed or we were buying some stupid office supplies. I didn't really want to go. But you know, when you're young enough, like you have to go with mom and dad, you know, because they can't
Oh
leave
yeah.
you at home. So it's like, oh, we're going to Staples. And then we saw this game that had like, and this is like when you still had the, you know, the whole box that was like 8.5 by 11 size. Like even though the CDs were only like that big, and we had this like really intricate like box design for just Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Am. We're like, oh, this looks cool. And we brought it home and played it, and I latched onto it right away. My dad was like, oh my God, there's too many buttons. There's too many things to do. It was too much for him, but I ran with that game, and that was actually kind of my introduction to D&D, believe it or not.
Yeah, that sounds like a you kind of game. I
Oh
haven't
yeah.
played any of them myself, but I know it's comparable to Divinity, which I have played, and I it definitely seems like your type of game for sure.
The storyline was just mwah. This is like back in good old Bioware days, like when they were. I think they were just starting to hit their peak.
Hmm.
A little bit. So if you haven't played it, I definitely go recommend you do so. They actually revamped them for current systems. The company I think is called Beamdog.
Okay.
Very cool stuff. Um, so Evan, do you want to answer the question you asked me, or do you want me to ask you a question to wrap it up?
If we're running out of time, I think that you should ask your question and I'll answer it.
Okay, I don't know if it is as interesting. Uh, but what I
Question.
wanted to ask was, when was the last time you sat down and read a physical book?
Oh dear.
I know.
Let's see. Well, um, I actually about I want to say a year or two ago read the book of The Shining,
Oh, okay.
um, and I really really liked it. And I actually, funny enough, I got into like not a real argument, but like a slight argument with my stepdad about it because I liked it much more than the movie, and he likes the
Okay.
movie more than the book.
Oh
But
no.
it wasn't a whole big thing, but I adore the original book and the directions it goes. I feel like the movie cut out so much that I
It
liked when I
probably
read it.
had to.
Yeah, and also stuff they couldn't do it when the movie came out, like the hedges coming to life.
I gotcha. Yeah,
But it was lovely.
I haven't read that book. I really should at some point. I have found that my like because it's really weird. Like when I was younger, I used to be a much more avid book reader.
Oh, same.
I still read books, but I just don't have as much time. So like
Yep.
it feels like when you only have like 25 minutes here and there, like to sit down and like start reading a book, it just feels like you're not going to get very far. I just miss those days where like you could sit down like in an afternoon, like what am I going to do today? I could read a book, I could play a video game. Yeah, let's go read a book. I miss those days on the couch.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that was our final question for today. This podcast was with myself and Evan, covering just kind of fantasy and fictional places in terms of books and movies.
Fictional stories.
Yeah, we kind of just ran with it. And this was an example of some of the things that you can do in our YouTube club. We will be coming out with more format examples as time goes on. If you want to check out our club page, I will include a link in the description below so you get a better idea of what the club is about. The website is still under construction. We're adding bits and pieces as we go. But basically, if you want to make cool YouTube videos, meet other people who are interested in creating really cool stuff, I definitely encourage you to go and check it out. Evan, anything you would like to add before we close out?
I hope everybody that watches this has a lovely morning, afternoon, or evening.
Sounds good. All right, so with that, we're going to end it, and maybe we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.